Hello, I'm Bruce Zimmerman, host of the Open Line Garden Show, heard every Saturday morning from 8 till 9 on CFBU 103.7 FM St. Catharines. When planting your dahlia tubers, make sure you don't plant them before the danger of all frost is past. Make sure that you pick a well-drained, sunny location. You want to dig a hole at least 10 to 12 inches deep and fill with good, rich, well-drained organic soil. Plant the tubers 4 to 5 inches deep. That's from the top of the bulb. That top of the bulb, there is an eye, and that eye has to point upwards. Now, you cover the rest of the tuber with loose soil and place a stake, maybe a 4 or 5 inch stake, beside it. Now, that's extremely critical, particularly on the tall tubers that are very vigorous. Now, once that stake is there, you'll be able to replace it with another one that's taller as the dahlia grows throughout the season in order to stake it. That's what that's all about. After the plant is developed to 10, 12, 15 inches tall, tie it with loosely to that new taller stake. Water only when the soil is very dry and give it a good soaking. If the large blooms are to be produced, dispud any unnecessary side buds. And if you want more, then you generally will get smaller flowers. But if you want more, then leave them, okay? Generally, you want 3 to 4 flowers in a cluster. And so as soon as you see them, break off the extras. When the center bud develops on a stem about 6 inches long, the other buds will appear at the base of the leaves on the same branch. If these leaf buds should be cut off, and you want to give yourself that perfect dahlia flower, because otherwise they grow up, and of course then the petals bend around all of these new little branches. Okay? Use a mulch of usually peat moss or something organic around each plant, usually at least 2 to 3 inches deep. Now this is important to get this on to keep the consistent moisture there. Now, about once a month, you can give it a water-soluble plant food. You can cut the blooms in the morning only. Plunge the stems in cold water for 3 to 4 hours before bringing them into room temperature. After a killing frost in the fall, dig up the tubers, and with the soil still attached, dry in a warm place. Now, sometimes on nice days in the fall, I leave them right on the concrete in order to help dry and toughen up the skins of the tubers, which is what you're trying to do. If you pull the soil off, you actually are skinning the tuber, just like you get a skin or an abrasion. And, of course, it's an infection that can set in there. So, we don't do that. If you do have some occluded soil clumps in there, you can sometimes wash them out gently. If they're really occluded, you leave them. Just let them dry out, leave them there, and that's the best you can do. You're probably going to take about 1 to 2 weeks in order for them to dry up, and you'll be able to see a lot of the soil drop off naturally. Store them in sand or peat for the winter in a cool place, about 45 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and you should be go for more next year. If you're going to divide some of these bigger, more aggressive tubers, remember a razor knife and that eye where all the tubers join can be cut in half. Remember, any tuber that breaks off that has no eye is blind. You can throw it away. It makes compost because it will never bloom. It's basically done. Okay? So very, very carefully with the razor knife cut if you're going to divide. And you do that in the spring. Pot them up and then get them going and then harden them off and then plant them as you would have the dormant tubers in the spring as you've done in previous years. Now, when I do pineapple lilies, to my way of thinking, always end up having to be stored. And I can't be bothered storing them and doing this and doing that. So I have a large clay pot with good rich soil, and I mix in Oxalis. Okay, now Oxalis will give you that sort of mounded look as the pineapple lilies grow up through. And, of course, bloom. But they give you this color. Now, I happen to like what they call the red ones, but there are the purple-leafed ones, there are white ones, and pink, etc. And then once you've got that, with the pineapple lily leaves coming up, some of them are, of course, spotted, some are not, some are red, some are burgundy, and really quite attractive. If you have one of the really tall Oxalis or pineapple lily, then what you want to do is put him in the center. And I space them out and around, plant the Oxalis around them, and when they are finished in the fall, I do cut them down, I let them dry back, and I store them in my garage. Now, in my garage, it doesn't really freeze, but it's nice and cool, and they come up each subsequent year right in the pot. I'm very fortunate that way. But that's the way I do those. And I won't bring them out until the weather has stabilized, and that's usually in May against the house on the south side where it's nice and warm, because remember, they are subtropical and not hardy, so you don't want to give them even an early, or how shall I say, a late frost in the spring. Not good. Okay? So there's a way of growing dahlias, oxalis, and of course, pineapple lilies. If you'd like to hear more on growing bulbs, etc., email your gardening questions to openlinegardenShow@gmail.com, or listen every Saturday morning between 8 and 9 on CFBU 103.7 FM, St. Catharines.